Okay, today we're going to look at 5 ways you can use the new Boss EQ200. This was a really fun video to put together because on the surface this looks like a pretty standard 10-band graphic EQ. However, there is so much functionality under the hood. You can either use it as just a simple 10-band graphic EQ like on guitar, bass, keyboards, whatever you want, or you can use it as a fully MIDI controllable EQ with onboard presets that you can switch between, or you can run it as 2 totally separate independent 10-band EQ channels. For example, if you wanted to put one before your amp and one in the effects loop of your amp, or if you wanted to cascade them in series, you can do that as well. There is a whole lot of stuff going on under the hood here, but I want to show you how I would go about using it on different sources. So what we're going to start out with, I just want to show off the 3 built-in EQ ranges. You can select between 3 different ranges, which I think are suited to different instruments, primarily guitar, bass, keyboards, or just about any other source you can imagine. So what we're going to hear is how those different EQ ranges sound with the same preset EQ. I'm using this as like a preamp boost into a heavy amp. Let's hear that. So hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea of what the different EQ ranges do. That's by no means a comprehensive account because we are running into quite a high gain sound there, but you can hear that the kind of stock guitar mode does sound really good as a preamp boost. And a little word on sort of my guide to boosting. Essentially, when you're running, say, an EQ pedal like this before your amp, if you want to tighten it up and get a really great heavy tone, I like to pull out low end and pull out a bit of extreme high end and really focus on that 800 to 1.6 2K range for a boost, really pushing it. Then you can use the overall level. That's kind of what I had set up there. So one great thing about this is you can have it set between the manual mode, which has a lock function, which is really awesome. The old EQ20 that I have doesn't have that feature, and I always wished it had that. And you can select between, say, a pre-boost, which might take your crunchy rhythm sound way over the top into a high-gain lead sound. And then you could use one of the memory modes as like an anti-boost, kind of like a detox for your tone, where you pull out level and essentially use it like a preset, say, volume pedal or something like that to give you a clean sound. So you can turn a 1-channel amp set as a crunchy sound into a 3-channel amp. Let's have a look at how we would do that. If you go into the guts of this, you can set this so that the EQs are running as independent parallel channels that aren't linked, and using the output jacks on the back, you could say run in and out of channel A, put that before your amp, in and out of channel B, put that in your amp's effects loop, and you can take a pretty wimpy distorted sound and turn it into an absolutely tight, brutal chug machine. The approach that I just detailed on creating a massive heavy guitar sound would work really well on bass guitar as well. If we split our signal and go into the EQ200, I could use channel A and roll off a lot of the high end and send that to a bass DI with a bit of compression for my clean bass sound. Then I could do the opposite, roll off a bunch of the low end and send that to a dirty bass amp or a distortion pedal and use that for my distorted sound. I could then use the two level controls on this pedal to balance out the mix between the clean fundamental and the distorted top end there. This is a really popular approach to modern bass, and essentially we're using this to create a crossover and an EQ in one, which I think is pretty cool. Quick disclaimer, I know nothing about bass guitar sounds and I'm not a bass player, so if this sounds terrible, it's because I know nothing about bass. It's more to show off the functionality that you can get out of this EQ feature. If you do a lot of acoustic gigs like I do, you know that piezo pickups are kind of a necessary evil and you do have to do quite a bit of EQing with them. So the fact that this has two independent EQ channels in it is very, very handy if you want to use acoustic guitar. What we're going to hear in this clip is we're going to hear the EQ200 before and after a compressor. So channel A, I'm going to use to essentially take out the piezo quack and add a bit of sparkle. Then it's going to a compressor. The output of the compressor is coming back in to channel B, which I would use as like a solo boost. A lot of the time when I'm doing acoustic gigs, I'm doing live looping stuff, and I would put layers and guitar solos on top of the underlying rhythm guitar sound. So the ability to have an onboard boost to add like a little bit more sparkle and pull a little bit more low end out, just make the guitar kind of sit a little bit better, is really, really handy for acoustic stuff. Essentially, I want to get rid of the like piezo quack and fizz, compress it, and then have the option to use a boost. So let's have a listen to that. I'm using my Headway acoustic guitar on this one, which has a Fishman piezo pickup. So we've talked a lot about the feature of using this as two independent EQs, but you do have the option to run this essentially as a parallel linked EQ, in other words, a stereo 10-band EQ. And this is awesome if you're a synth player and you want to have hands-on access to filtering effects. So we'll hear that, then we'll hear it on a monosynth sound where I'm running the two channels in series into one another, so that this gives you, rather than 15 dB of boost and cut, this will let you get up to 30 dB of boost or cut, which is great. If you like synths, we're just going to hear a particular synth sequence, and I'm going to play around with this and make some cool sounds. Again, I know nothing about synthesizers, but this is super fun. So there's 5 ways you can use this pedal. If you have ideas or other ways you would implement this in your rig, I would love to hear from you guys. For me, the fact that you have not 1 but 2 10-band graphic EQs in here that you can run anywhere you like in your signal chain really makes this a winner in my opinion. Boss have been putting out a bunch of great stuff, but this is kind of head and shoulders above the rest of their products at the moment. I know a lot of you were like, so what, it's just a 10-band EQ, how good can that be? But hopefully this video gives you an idea of how the extra functionality in this pedal and the fact that you can run it as 2 EQs can really bring your rig to life, whether you're like someone who just wants to get really filthy, tight, high-gain distorted sounds, if you're a bass player, if you're a gigging guitar player playing acoustic or electric and you need like a Swiss Army knife as a tool, or you need something that you can integrate into your keyboard rig that also has MIDI. The EQ200 is awesome. I think it's a winner, and I think it's the best thing Boss have released probably in the last decade, which is saying something because they've released a bunch of great stuff. But for me, big thumbs up, well done Boss, and there's 5 ways you can use it. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Until then, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.